Well, growing up, a friend of mine, his dad, Rusty, quoted 1 Corinthians 15, verse 3, more than any other verse that he quoted. When his parents were worried about someone that we were spending time with, or they observed a student making poor choices, my friend's dad would say, "Boys, never forget, bad company corrupts good morals." Many of you guys have heard that. But see, you want it the other way. I will be such a powerful influence that they will completely change. My good company will change their bad morals. Some of you even date that way. It's called missionary dating. The thought process is he's got a bad reputation. He doesn't go to church. He does things that I don't agree with, but he's really nice. You watch, he'll change. And some of you, if I gave you the microphone, you would testify about how he didn't. See, parents worry about who their kids choose as friends. They always have. They always will. And they worry for a good reason. See, who you allow in your close inner circle influences you for either right or for wrong. It's not just kids and students, though, is it? Adults often make the same mistake. When a wife has been faithful to her husband for years, suddenly decides that she is unhappy and wants out, I ask, who's speaking into her life? It's obvious that she's listening to a new voice. When an addict who has been clean for years drops out and relapses, I know that he's reconnected with old friends from his old life who have pulled him back to old habits. When someone who has been reasonable suddenly becomes angry, opinionated, argumentative, and unreasonable, I know that there's a new voice in their life. It might be a friend, a Facebook group, a talk show radio host, or someone that they follow on Twitter. Regardless, they are listening to a new voice. When a student who has always loved and listened to her parents suddenly turns rebellious and withdrawn, there's a new voice in her life. Someone else is speaking against your family and your values. When an encourager becomes critical and nitpicky, I wonder who they're listening to. When someone who is kind and loyal suddenly starts spreading gossip, I know that there's a new influence. When a member of the church who has loved and supported the ministry begins to undermine leadership, it is obvious that there is a new and toxic voice in their life. See, most of the time, new opinions and attitudes come from listening to a new voice. When you're in the middle of it, it is difficult to recognize. But those around you easily see it. If you listen to the wrong voice, you'll make wrong decisions, you'll go the wrong direction, and you'll quit listening to the right voices. Today we're continuing our study on the book of Jude. And this letter was written to the church because the church was being damaged by false teachers. They taught a dangerous false gospel that was confusing to the early Christians. They taught that parts of the Old Testament that focused on holiness and morality were outdated and wrong, and they disagreed with Jesus' teachings on eternal life. See, the false teachers rejected moral, righteous living. They were ruled by their desires and their passions instead of being led by God. Not only that, they expected the churches to support their ministry. And people were falling for it. They were attracted to a do what you want, anything goes kind of religion. Sound familiar? If you missed Pastor Tina's teaching last week, catch up. You can do that online at mahea.org/media, or you can go to our YouTube channel at Mahea First Assembly. But today we pick up the letter at verse 11, and it is strong words that are directed at the false teachers. It says, "What sorrow awaits them, for they follow in the footsteps of Cain, who killed his brother. Like Balaam, they deceive people for money, and like Korah, they perish in their rebellion." See, Jude used bad people in the Old Testament to describe the actions of the false teachers. He said, like Cain, they are violent and jealous. Like Balaam, their goal is money and wealth. And like Korah, they rebel against spiritual authority. Verse 12, "When these people eat with you in your fellowship meals, commemorating the Lord's love." Now, I'm going to pause there. Fellowship meals are an important part of church life. See, taking communion together was not a little stale wafer and a tiny cup of juice. It was a full meal. People ate together and they talked about what God was doing in their life. See, church involved eating. Not all the time, but much of the time. And you're probably ahead of me a little bit. This is good news, right? There is a lot of food and eating around this place, isn't there? That's biblical. Eat together, talk about Jesus, celebrate changed lives, and then eat some more. And then pray and eat some more. Laugh, eat some more. Be together with God's people. Make some no-bake oatmeal cookies for your pastor. It's biblical, right? We're just following the model that was put forth in the Bible. That was his words, not mine. It's what you should do. See, in this case, the false teachers were joining in the meals. They were deeply involved with the people, and they were deeply involved in church life. They weren't outsiders looking in. They had become insiders. They were devious, deceptive, and manipulative. And they were at the table. Jude, he decided enough was enough. He called them out, and he described them with very powerful images. And he wanted the church to see them for what they were, the wrong voices being used by Satan. Jude said, "When these people eat with you in your fellowship meals, commemorating the Lord's love, they are like dangerous reefs that can shipwreck you." Now, in those days, if you had to travel a long way, you probably took a boat. There were no planes or trains or automobiles. Travel by ship was way better than walking, but it was still very expensive and very dangerous. Jude said, "These people that you have allowed in the church are like dangerous reefs that can shipwreck you." Now, it is a ridge of jagged rock, coral, or sand that is just above or just below the level of the sea. A ridge above the surface of the sea wasn't dangerous at all. Why? Because you can see it. And if you can see it, you can avoid it. But a ridge below the surface of the sea was dangerous and deadly. See, back then they didn't have sonar or depth finders. There was no way to know if you were headed for a reef. The water appeared calm and pleasant. And then suddenly the boat hit a reef and the hull of the ship was ripped open. The ship sank because of the danger that the captain couldn't see. See, a dangerous reef is a wrong voice that is difficult to detect. See, they cleverly hide their sin and they do their best to deceive you. And you fall for their lies because you don't see the danger. See, a wrong voice will sink you when you least expect it. Did you know there are 1 million shipwrecks scattered across the world's oceans? But see, there are far more life wrecks because people didn't see the danger until it was too late. Jude continued, "They are like shameless shepherds who only cared for themselves." Again, Jude used familiar imagery with them. See, shepherds had one job, and that was to care for the sheep. See, shepherds put themselves in harm's way. They did, and they worked long, hard hours to make sure that the sheep were safe. In John chapter 10, Jesus described himself. He said, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. See, the false teachers claimed to lead and guide God's people. But see, they had no concern for anyone other than themselves. They didn't care for the flock. Instead, they used their positions of leadership to establish a comfortable life for themselves. See, the false teachers were shameless shepherds. See, the shameless shepherd wrong voice doesn't care about you at all. They are focused on themselves, what they want, what they need, and how they can get it. They are greedy and they are self-centered. It's the boyfriend that tempts you to have sex and then dumps you when you give in. It's the friend who convinces you to start drinking again but then leaves your side when you lose control. Shameless shepherds abandon you at the first sign of trouble. You don't need them in your life. And then Jude wasn't done. He said they are like clouds blowing over the land without giving any rain. Again, Jude used an image that the people understood. Palestine was a very dry climate. The people were often desperate for rain. And if clouds formed but no rain fell, the result was bitter disappointment. The false teachers were like rainless clouds. They promised much, but they delivered little. See, the wrong voice in your life gets your hopes up, but doesn't deliver. They don't keep their promises, and they never follow through. There are lots of promises, but not a lot of results. They claim you'll get married soon, but it never happens. They claim that if you give, that God's going to give you a six-figure income, and it doesn't happen. Financial advisors who make wild promises of big returns and no risk, they promise something that doesn't exist. You get mad when salespeople do that, don't you? When they make claims that can't possibly be true. Commercials for alcohol show you the good life that can happen when you drink their product. But they don't show you the truth, do they? Enjoy it now, pay later was your motto for years, and you enjoyed it a lot, but now the bills are due. The credit card that once was your ticket to happiness has turned into a fast pass to misery and shame. You never fully understood what immediate gratification would actually cost you. They said it would help with pain, and now you're hopelessly addicted. See, lots of promises, but no real results. They're like clouds blowing over the land without giving any rain. They are like trees in autumn that are doubly dead, for they bear no fruit and have been pulled up by the roots. Now, fruit trees were tended to and nurtured, and they were supposed to bring forth what? Fruit. But if they gave nothing during the fruit season, they were uprooted and were worthless. They were double dead because there was no fruit and because they had to be pulled up. See, the double dead false teachers didn't have the fruit of the Spirit or of a righteous life. There was no evidence of the special relationship with God that they claimed to love. See, they talked a good game, but they didn't live it. Verse 13, they are like wild waves of the sea, churning up the foam of their shameful deeds. Again, this image was familiar to the original readers. Anybody ever been to the beach? I grew up in Corpus, so lived on the beach. Big, wild waves would crash against the shore, and when the ocean finally pulls back, the beach is covered with dirty, nasty junk. If you've gone to the beach on vacation early in the morning, you can find broken seashells, seaweed, plastic bottles, trash, and driftwood that were left behind by the tide. See, wild waves bring bad things to the surface, and wrong voices do the same thing. They come into your life and they leave a lot of trash behind. They bring up gossip and false information, and they remind you of your past hurts. They fill your life with bad stories, broken dreams, broken hearts, messed up lives, and controversy. See, their goal is to pull out the worst in you. See, wrong voices want to keep the drama going. They try to get you to see others as the enemy. That's how they lead. Their goal is to get you to join them against somebody else. They will turn you against your parents, your pastors, and your church, and the right voices in your life. They are like wild waves, and when they finally go, they leave a mess behind. Jude finished describing the false teachers, the wrong voices, with one more image. He said they're like wandering stars, doomed forever to the blackest darkness. Here's what he said. False teachers are like shooting stars. They attract a lot of attention and they put on a big show, but then they quickly flame out and disappear. They're there during the good times, but they are gone during the bad times. See, wrong voices often look good. They are impressive and they're popular. They quickly draw a crowd with their words and their ideas, but ultimately they accomplish nothing but the show. There's no substance, there's no direction, they lead you nowhere. Isn't that an amazing picture of wrong voices? Dangerous reefs that will sink your ship, shameless shepherds that put themselves first, rainless clouds that make lots of promises but don't keep them, double-dead trees with none of the fruit that comes from following Jesus, wild waves that leave behind trash and turmoil, shooting stars that put on a big show but lead you nowhere. My friend's dad was right. Bad company corrupts good morals. See, when you listen to the wrong voices, the result is hurt and heartache. They lead you away from God's plan and God's purpose, and then they abandon you there. On the other hand, though, when you surround yourself with the right voices, good things happen. You want to know why? Because they encourage you to do right. They help you to think right, and they challenge you when you're off track. They celebrate holiness in your life. They want your marriage to last, your faith to be strong, and your witness to be consistent. And as I've been talking about the wrong voices, no doubt many of you realize that you've got some wrong voices in your life. In fact, some of you are listening to a lot of wrong voices. It's time to do the hard work and end those relationships. You will never be able to hear from the right voices when your ears are full of the wrong voices. Listen to me, ending the relationships will be tough, but it'll be worth it. I talk with people all the time who have been in trouble in the past. Some have gone to jail. Some have gotten out, and I ask, hey, or I tell them, hey, you're going to fit in here, just be truthful. We've got other people that have been to jail in our church, so just be truthful. Nobody's going to freak out. And then I ask them, have you changed your number? And sometimes I'm met with a puzzled look. And sometimes people respond, oh yeah, Pastor, there's no way I ever want to go back there. Listen, if you don't want to go back there, you got to do something different than what got you there. So how do you identify the right voices? Right? It's not enough just to not listen to the wrong voices, but you got to find the right voices. So how do you identify them? Who should you listen to? And rather than give you a list of right voices, I want to share some qualities that all of those voices share. And this will help you identify who you listen to and allow in your inner circle. I've watched so many people wreck their lives because they get a new voice. If you are going to get a new voice, get a right voice. So here's how you recognize it. The right voice is someone who is ahead of you in the spiritual journey. They are mature and fruitful. You can't follow someone who is behind you. Listen to people who are mature and fruitful in their Christian experience. Josiah, come here. Quickly. Hurry. Hurry. Today. Look, we matched. Did you see that? Aww. Josiah, do me a favor. Keith, switch to camera 2. It's what happens when I don't put stuff in their notes and I make illustrations up as we go. All right. Josiah, you're behind me, right? Was that a yes? Okay. He's behind me. I can't see him. All right. Josiah, I want you to lead me somewhere. Go ahead. Josiah, are you leading me? Hey, how come you're not leading me? Where are we going? Am I following him? I'm probably doing. Why are you over there? All right, here, I'll go that way. Wait. Let me go this way. Do you see it? Does it make sense? You can't follow somebody who's behind you. Y'all give him a huge round of applause. He did a great job, didn't he? Listen, if you can't do that actually following someone, what makes you think that you can do that in your life? Listen, this is the key to finding the right voice. If they aren't fruitful, they're not mature. Y'all didn't get that? I'm going to say it again. If they're not fruitful, they're not mature. It doesn't matter how long they've been in church. It doesn't matter what position they hold. If they are not fruitful, they are not mature. They're just old babies. Right? Still drinking milk. If they don't have the fruit of the Spirit active in their life, they're not mature. Don't follow them. Why? Because mature trees bear fruit, and mature Christians have lives that are marked by the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. If the person you want to follow puts crap on Facebook and social media, don't follow them. They're not mature. They're not the right voice in your life. The right voice will also disagree with you. They are honest. See, what you want is people who think like you and tell you what you want to hear. But what you need is people who will love you enough to tell you the truth, who will challenge you when you're making bad choices, when you're listening to the wrong voices, or you're heading in the wrong direction. If you only listen to people who agree with you, your mind will never be stretched, and your actions will never be challenged, and your course will never be altered. I thank God for truth tellers in my life. I've got a lot of them. See, one of the advantages of working with your family is brutal honesty. Tina is quick to tell me if I am being stupid, wearing something that I shouldn't, saying something that I shouldn't say, or if I am thinking something wrong. She looks at me and be like, "Babe, I love you, but you're wrong. Shut up." Our staff has worked together for many years. They are not afraid to evaluate me and tell me when I missed the mark. Earlier this year, they confronted me when I violated one of our core values. It's not always easy or pleasant, but without truth tellers in my life, I'll never improve. Our overseers challenge me. My truth tellers help me remember that my way is not always the right way. It's just my way. Now, be careful. There is a difference between truth-telling and criticism or complaining. See, the goal of the critic is to tear you down. The goal of the complainer is to get what they want. The goal of the truth teller is to make you better. If you don't know how to tell the difference, you'll let the critics and the complainers set the agenda. Listen to me. If they always have the negative and not the positive, they aren't helping you. See, the right voice is someone who loves you. They are caring. And this is an important balance to truth tellers. Right voices aren't mean or hateful. They love you and they've got your best interest at heart. Listen to people who love you and have proven it over time. Listen to me. Don't tune out your parents, your pastors, or your recovery sponsor. My number one regret that I have is that I lost connection with some loving truth tellers who had my best interests at heart. See, I didn't know how valuable they were to me. I thought there would always be a never-ending supply of people who would do that. And now I recognize that loving truth tellers with your best interest at heart are rare, priceless treasures. Do whatever you've got to do to keep them in your life. Don't shut them out or shut them down. You need them. You need to listen to someone who has done what you want to do. They have experience. If you want to cook something incredible, don't learn that from me. Right? Learn from Susan Montgomery. She actually knows how to cook really good. If you want to learn how to sing, don't learn that from Pastor Tina. She's a horrible singer. Learn from Pastor Frank. He can sing anything, on key, in 2 different languages, and it sounds good. If you want to learn how to be a softball coach, I'm not your guy. Learn from Wes Tunnel. He's really good at it and coaches at the college level. Now, if you want to learn how to affirm people and help them discover their potential or how to lead a church, I might be able to help you because I've done that. If you want to have a successful marriage, don't listen to your dysfunctional friend who's had a series of failed relationships. Talk to someone who's been married for 50 or 60 years and, big and, they're still happy. If you want to know how to overcome alcoholism and addictions, don't listen to your friend who is in the middle of another relapse. Listen to someone who has celebrated 20 years free from addiction. Listen to me, students. You want to have a relationship that honors God. Don't listen to your friends. Your friends are stupid. All the parents said? There we go. If you want to have a relationship that honors God, look at people who are married and have a godly relationship and emulate them. See, you've got to listen to someone who has accomplished what you've accomplished. If you want to be a millionaire, you don't ask your broke neighbor. You got to listen to someone who's done what you want to do. The right voice is someone who makes good decisions. They have wisdom. Proverbs 15 verse 7 says, only the wise can give good advice. Anybody here ever gotten bad advice? You want to know why? You didn't listen to the right voice. Why would you trust someone who makes bad decisions to help you make good decisions? It doesn't make any sense. You don't want your financial advisor to be broke or your health and wellness coach to be horribly out of shape. The right voice has a history of making good decisions and offering right advice. See, our overseers are made up of men and women with wisdom. They've got a track record of doing right in their marriages, their careers, and at church. They make good decisions, so they are the right people to help the church make good decisions. See, the right voice is someone you've got a heart connection with. Now, hear me out on this. If you don't like someone, regardless of how wise they are, you won't listen to them. You need some sense of chemistry, some kind of connection. It's humorous and sad to watch. Some of you take advice from the most unlikely people. Like, it is unbelievable. They have questionable character and a bad track record, and it makes no sense to let them be a primary voice in your life. See, the right voice is someone that you respect. They have character. They are affirming and truth-telling. They are Bible-based givers who willingly sacrifice their preferences and put others first. The right voice is someone who is faithful in their Christian walk. They are consistent. Watch how they treat people. Watch how they worship. Watch how they give. Watch how they respond when they don't get their way. Listen to their words. Listen as they pray. Observe the fruit of their life. The right voices are people who live holy lives. The right voice is an encourager. When you leave them, you feel better about yourself. I want to teach you an important principle. Here it is. If someone is critical about others to you, one day they will be critical about you to others. You can count on that. See, encouragers consistently find the good in others. And they don't just find it, they actually say it. Some of you have tried to make criticism a spiritual gift. It's not. Being an encourager is a command from God. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 says, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. Ephesians 4:29 says, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for what? Building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. Hebrews 10, starting in verse 24, says, and let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Let us not give up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another. Listen, surrounding yourself with the right voices is one reason it is important to be a part of a church family. Listen, I love online church. I love that we've got that as an option. But you better have a place where you are meeting and keeping right voices. Now, are there wrong voices here? Sure. Not everyone who attends church is a Christian. They are on the journey. But there are a lot of the right voices. People who will love you and have your best interests at heart. If you're coming to church but not building friendships with the right people, I want to challenge you to take the next step. Attend a connection class. Come to Wednesday night. Get involved in a ministry. Invite someone to go out to eat. Invite someone to come over to your house. Sign up to work. Invest the necessary time and energy it takes to make friends. But you've got to take the first step. I see it all the time. Well, Pastor, we're going to leave the church because I don't have any friends. I've never said it, but I've been tempted to say it. One day I may. I probably won't. But I think it every single time somebody says that. Well, of course you don't have any friends. You show up late. You leave before I'm done. You never show up consistently. When does people have time to be your friend? I want to say it out loud. I never have. Maybe I should. If you want to have friends, you got to make friends. Let me say that again. If you want to have friends, you got to make friends. And the only way you make friends is if you invest the time and the energy it takes to make friends. Proverbs 12:26 says, "The righteous choose their friends carefully." It is not oversimplification to say that your life will change for the better if you quit listening to the wrong voices and start listening to the right voices. Let me finish with a final challenge for you. Be the right voice. Be realistic and evaluate yourself. Go through this outline again. In what ways are you being like the false teachers in Jude? What areas of being the right voice do you need to develop? Be realistic. Here's the key. Listening to the right voices is how you become a right voice. See, you become like the people you spend the most time around. If you're always hanging around with negative critics, guess what you'll be? A negative critic. If you're always hanging around with people who are positive and always worshiping, guess what? You will be too. But you get to choose. A mentor of mine named Jeannie Mayo said this. She said, "Show me your friends and I'll show you your future." There are a lot of things in life that you don't have control over. But you absolutely have control over who you allow to be the primary voices in your life. And that decision will determine your direction. Would you bow your heads with me? I want to pray for you. There are two ways I want to pray for you. Number one, if you say, "Pastor Jason, I've got some wrong voices in my life and I know it." As you went through the list, I recognize that change needs to happen. Pray for me because this isn't going to be easy. And if that's you and you'd say, "Pastor Jason, I've got wrong voices in my life," would you pray for me? If that's you, would you just raise your hand right where you are? Yeah. Yeah. The second thing I want to pray, is I recognize that I'm lacking some of the right voices in my life. Would you pray for me that I will find them and I will do whatever it takes to keep the right voices in my life? If that's you, would you raise your hand as well? Yeah, hands everywhere. So God, we come to you, Lord, and Lord, for some of us, Lord, we have realized that we are listening to the wrong voices in our lives. Lord, I pray that you would give us the courage to end those relationships, God, to stop those wrong voices from speaking into our life. God, I know it's going to be hard, but Lord, we know that when we do the hard part of cutting off those wrong voices, God, that it's worth it because it makes room for the right voices. Lord, I pray for those today that said that they need more right voices in their life. Lord, I pray that not only would they meet the right voices, but God, that they would do whatever it takes to keep those voices in their life. Lord, that they would realize that the right voices are hard to find and they're hard to keep. And so, Lord, may they fight in every single way, Lord, to keep those right voices in there. Lord, because we know when we've got the right voices speaking to us, God, we eventually begin to go the right way. God, we begin to walk in the right direction. God, our attitude begins to be what it should be. Lord, I pray that as we listen to the right voices, God, that people around us would notice. God, and they would want what we've got. We're grateful for you, Lord. In Jesus' name.